So we got the RADR 10% and 15%. Now with the help of this RADR, we can find out what is the NPV of both the projects, right? So calculation, year, then project A, project B. A project, B project. A project cash inflows, PV factors at the rate of 10%. PV of cash inflows. Similarly, cash inflows, PV factors at the rate of 15%. PV of cash inflows. 3 years data is given. 1, 2, 3. PV of cash inflow. So cash inflows are given 4,000, 4,000, 2,000. Here cash inflow 563. 5, 6, 3. Now discounting factor 10%, 0.909, 0.826, 0.751. These are the discount factors at 10%. Now we take the discount factors at 15%. 15%. 1 divided by 1.15 is equal to 0.869 or 0.870. 0.756. 0.658. Multiply 5,000 into 0.87. 4350. Then 6,000 into 0.756. 4536. 3,000 into 0.658. 1974 plus 4536 plus 4350. It comes to 10,860. Here 4,000 into 0.909. 36. 4,000 into 0.826. 3304. 2,000 into 0.751. 1502 plus 3304 plus 3636. 8442. That's it. So we got PV of cash inflow. Now we can find out the NPV. A project, B project. PV of cash inflow minus PV of cash outflow. PV of cash inflow 8442 and 10,860. What is the cash outflow? How much is the cash outflow? 10,000. 860. Here 10,000 minus 8442 is equal to 1,558 negative minus. So A project there is negative NPV and B project there is positive NPV. So it is suggested to the management to select project B since it gives a positive NPV. That's it. So the new point in this problem is the discount rate, the RADR will be different for the two projects. A project is less risky. That's why we are discounting at 10%. In the problem it is given risk-free rate 5% and risk premium 5%. So RADR is 10%. Whereas B project is more risky. So in that case 10% is the risk premium. So 5% risk-free rate, 10% risk premium, 15% is the RADR. So by using these different discount rates, we are finding out the PV of cash inflow. Now, 23rd problem. See the problem number 23. Two projects X and Y need initial investment of rupees 25,000, 40,000 respectively and the cost of capital is 8%. So two separate projects. XY. X project PV of cash outflow is 25,000. Y project PV of cash outflow is 40,000. Cost of capital 8%. The cash inflows of project X are 6,000, 9,000, 13,000, 9,000. 4 years is the life. The cash inflows of Y project are 18, 24, 20, 16. The risk premium of the two projects are 3% and 4%. Again, the risk premium will be added to the risk-free rate to get RADR. To get RADR, the risk-free rate cost of capital 8%. 8 plus 3, 8, 9, 10, 11%. So X project will be discounted at 11%. Y project 8 plus 4, 12%. Using RADR, find the NPV of the two projects. That's it. Find the NPV of the two projects. So again we write down 23rd problem. RADR is equal to risk-free rate plus risk premium. Project X. RADR is equal to 8 plus 3 is equal to 11%. Project Y. RADR is equal to 8 plus 4, 12%. That's it. Here, project X, project Y, cash inflow, PV factors. PV factors at the rate of 11%. PV of cash inflow. This is cash inflow, PV factors at the rate of 12%. PV of cash inflow. How many years? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. PV of cash inflow. So cash inflows are given for X project as 6,000, 9,000, 13,000 and 9,000. Y project 18,000, 24,000, 20,000, 16,000. Now PV factor at 11%. PV factors at 11%. So 1 divided by 1.11 is equal to 0.901 is equal to 0.812 731 659. Similarly 12%, 1 divided by 1.12 0.893 797 712 636. That's it. We have calculated the PV factors. We have taken the PV factors at 11% and 12%. Now multiply 6,000 into 0.901. 5406. 9,000 into 0.812. 13,000 into 0.731. 9,000 into 0.659. Similarly, 18,000 into 0.893. 24,000 into 0.797. 20,000 into 0.712. 16,000 into 0.636. 59,618. Here it is 5406 plus 7308 plus 9503 plus 5931. 28,148. That's it. So we have calculated the cash inflows of X project and Y project. Now we have to find out the NPV. So here we take X project and Y project. X project and Y project. So cash inflows are 28,148, 59,680. What is the PV of cash outflow? What is the cost of the project? It is given 25,000, 40,000. So 3,148 and 19,680. 19,680, 3,148. That's it. It is asking you state which project is better. Conclusion. ये पूरा कैलकुलेशन करने के बाद कंक्लूजन देना पड़ेगा कौन सा प्रोजेक्ट बेटर है, एक्सेप्टेबल है. Whichever project has a higher NPV, that project is acceptable. 19,618. The higher the NPV, better it is. So project Y is suggested. It is suggested to accept project Y since its NPV is more. See the next problem. That is problem number 24. 24th problem. Equipment A has a cost of rupees 75,000 and net cash flow of rupees 20,000 per year for 6 years. A substitute component B would cost rupees 50,000 and generate cash flows of 14,000 for 6 years. The required rate of return of both the equipment is 10%. Calculate the profitability index and NPV of both projects. Which equipment should be accepted and why? So two questions are there. The first is we have to calculate the PI, profitability index, and NPV. Secondly, we have to suggest which project should be accepted on that basis. The cash outflows are given, but the cash inflows are remaining constant. The cash inflows are remaining constant. Since cash inflows are constant, so we calculate the PV of cash inflow by the following formula. By using the following formula, we can find out PV of cash inflow. So PV of cash inflow is equal to constant annual cash inflow into PV of annuity factor at the rate of, what is the rate? 10%. For how many years? 6 years. 6 years. So project, first we take equipment A. PV of cash inflow is equal to equipment A. The PV of cash inflow is every year 20,000 we are getting into 10% for 6 years. Annuity factor 10% for 6 years. So 1 divided by 1.1. 1 divided by 1.1 is equal to 0.909. 10%. 1 divided by 1.1 is equal to 0.909. ये first year. We put this value in the memory. First year हो गया. So totally 6 years is equal to M. 2 years. 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 years I have put it in the memory. Now recall. Recall the memory. It is 4.355. 4.355. This is the annuity factor. Now multiply 20,000 into 4.355. 87,100. This is a PV of cash inflow of equipment A. Now equipment B. PV of cash inflow is equal to, what is the constant cash inflow given in the problem? 14,000 into 4.355. 14,000 into 4.355. 60,970. We got PV of cash inflow of both the projects. Right? Now we have to calculate the NPV and PI. We need to calculate NPV and PI, and then we can give the decisions. Equipment A and B. PV of cash inflow minus PV of cash outflow. PI is equal to PV of cash inflow divided by PV of cash outflow. First of all, cash inflow, PV of cash inflow 87,100. And here it is 60,970. How much is the PV of cash outflow? Outflow is given in the problem 75,000. And the B project 50,000. Given in the problem. Now 87,100 minus 75,000, we'll get 12,100 positive, and 60,970 minus 50,000, 10,970. 10,000. Now PV of PI 87,100 divided by 75,000. 87,100 divided by 75,000. 1.16. Similarly, 60,970 divided by 50,000. 1.22. That's it. We have calculated the NPV and also we have calculated the PI. Now we have to give the suggestion. It is asking you which equipment should be accepted and why. So we suggest equipment A on the basis of NPV. On the basis of NPV, equipment A is better because it is having more NPV. Whereas PI, according to PI criteria, project B is better. Now the question arises, NPV is saying A project is better, whereas PI is saying B project is better. So फिर दोनों अलग-अलग contradictory results we are getting. We are getting contradictory results from NPV and PI. Now the question is which method we should accept then? किसको follow करेंगे? NPV को follow करेंगे या PI को follow करेंगे? It depends on capital rationing. If the projects are mutually exclusive, then that project is better whose PI is more. अगर कैपिटल रैशनिंग है और दोनों प्रोजेक्ट का कैश आउटफ्लो अलग-अलग है, दोनों प्रोजेक्ट का कैश आउटफ्लो अलग है, तो दैट प्रोजेक्ट इज बेटर हुज पीआई इज मोर, हुज पीआई इज मोर. तो कैपिटल रैशनिंग के सिचुएशन में अगर पीवी ऑफ कैश आउटफ्लो अलग-अलग है दोनों प्रोजेक्ट का, तो वो प्रोजेक्ट सेलेक्ट करना जिसका पीआई ज्यादा है. तो इन दिस केस द पीआई इज 1.22 in case of project B. So our conclusion is go for project B because its PI is more. That's it. Now 25th problem. 25th problem you see. proposals is more risky. Two proposals are given, machine X, machine Y. Which is more risky? Calculate and give your opinion using sensitivity analysis for selecting one of the proposal. Again, we'll go back to the theory of capital budgeting. Risk analysis in capital budgeting mein one of the method of incorporating the risk is sensitivity analysis. In sensitivity analysis, we take 3 cash inflows for every year. One optimistic cash inflow, one pessimistic cash inflow, one most likely cash inflow. Optimistic cash inflow का मतलब highest cash inflow which we can expect. Pessimistic means lowest cash inflow which we expect. And most likely is the average. तो एक के बजाय 3 कैश इनफ्लो मालूम करेंगे. अब ये 3 कैश इनफ्लोज में से डिफरेंस कितना है? ऑप्टिमिस्टिक और पेसिमिस्टिक में बहुत हाई डिफरेंस अगर हो रहा तो इसका मतलब रिस्क इज मोर. इन दिस वे वी टेक द डिसीजन अकॉर्डिंग टू सेंसिटिविटी एनालिसिस. तो पर्टिकुलर्स मशीन एक्स 50 लाख, मशीन वाई 50 लाख, ये पीवी ऑफ कैश आउटफ्लो. पेसिमिस्टिक अगर सिचुएशन है तो मशीन एक्स विल गिव 8 लाख, मोस्ट लाइकली 10 लाख, ऑप्टिमिस्टिक 12 लाख. तो मशीन एक्स में अगर ऑप्टिमिस्टिक सिचुएशन अगर हो गया तो 12 लाख 12 लाख रुपीस कैश इनफ्लो विल गेट. अगर पेसिमिस्टिक अगर हो गया तो 8 लाख, मोस्ट लाइकली 10 लाख. ये मशीन एक्स के बारे में. मशीन वाई के बारे में पेसिमिस्टिक 1 लाख, ऑप्टिमिस्टिक 25 लाख, बहुत ज्यादा हो गया. 1 लाख रुपये अगर पेसिमिस्टिक में है तो ऑप्टिमिस्टिक अगर हुआ तो 25 लाख रुपये और मोस्ट लाइकली 5 लाख रुपीस. कैश फ्लो एन्युइटी इज टू बी एस्टिमेटेड फॉर 10 इयर्स. अब ये जो कैश फ्लोज जो मालूम करेंगे हम आने वाले 10 साल तक. एंड द कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल इज 14% एंड डिस्काउंटिंग रेट वी हैव टू टेक 14%. तो फॉर ईच ऑफ द इवेंट्स मींस वेदर इट इज ऑप्टिमिस्टिक, पेसिमिस्टिक और मोस्ट लाइकली, वी कैलकुलेट एनपीवी, पीवी ऑफ कैश इनफ्लो माइनस पीवी ऑफ कैश आउटफ्लो. तो एनपीवी कैलकुलेट करेंगे हर एक इवेंट में और 3 इवेंट आ जाएंगे. पेसिमिस्टिक रहा तो एनपीवी कितना है, मोस्ट लाइकली रहा तो कितना है, ऑप्टिमिस्टिक रहा तो कितना है. तो 3 एनपीवीज विल गेट इन एक्स मशीन and 3 NPVs will get in Y machine. By comparing these NPVs, we can decide which is better, in which machine the risk is more. So it is asking you to find out which machine is more risky. So this is the problem number 25. Sensitivity analysis. Sensitivity analysis. First we will take machine X. Machine X, we have events, particulars. Then we have cash inflows. Then we have PV of annuity factor at the rate of 10% for 10 years. 14%, not 10%, 14% for 10 years. Then PV of cash inflow, PV of cash outflow, NPV. Pessimistic, most likely, optimistic. These calculations we are making for machine X. Same type of calculations we have to make for machine Y. Event, cash inflows, PV of annuity factor, PV of cash inflow, PV of cash outflow, NPV. Pessimistic, most likely, optimistic. See carefully. So these are the tables we are going to make. First one, machine X. Pessimistic 8 lakh, then most likely 10 lakhs, and optimistic 12 lakh given in the problem. Similarly, here it is pessimistic 1 lakh, most likely 5 lakh and optimistic 25 lakh. The cost of the machine is 50 lakh for both. That's it. Now 14% 10 years. 14% 10 years will get 5.216. 14% for 10 years. We'll confirm it. I'll show you. 1 divided by 1.14 is equal to 1 divided by 1.14. How many years? 10 years. So first year we have calculated and we have put it in memory. 1 year ho gaya. Is equal to M 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.